잠깐만요. 멀리 원할게요.
Our player Seongsu on the left is mulliganing and facing down Jinsung, who appears to be keeping on Eldrazi on the right. I see a hand with Thorn, Chalice, Petal, a bunch of lands, and at least 2 creatures to sink them into. Songjun is going to go down to 6 here and attempt to find a really fast combo hand. Hopefully one that won't rely too much on cantripping, because that can be a really hard thing to do against the Eldrazi deck. You're not given that much time. This hand is all cantrips, and if he's on the draw here, then he might not cast any of them. Okay, so he has Jace, a Pierce, a Ponder, a Preordain, so he's going to go ahead and um, pierce anything that the Eldrazi player does, like that. Obviously, he could have had a Mimic hand, but then we're really not that far behind anyway, just from not pondering. And then leaving up Spell Pierce and nabbing either Sphere or Chalice with it is probably the best way that you can go about staying alive in this matchup here. The creatures are going to get through. You can't force everything, and they probably are going to land a cavern anyway. But you must be allowed to ponder. Or preordain. Probably ponder. Okay. There's a pair of show and tells there. I don't see a fatty, so he's working on finding the first piece. If he still has a fetch, I would keep one of these. So he's kept one, and then you get to preordain the others away, which is fantastic. We didn't want this show and tell or this land. There's a quick bottom, and like most show and tell players, we just go ahead and rip Emrakul off the top. Or he got a second show and tell, which means that they were all clumped up there at the top. It's interesting. And if Jinsong doesn't just slam a creature here, well, there's a freebie. And an endless one for 4, right? So that's a pretty quick clock. That's probably enough to force the show and tell player to find it or just die within 3 turns. So he's going to have to force it, especially in a matchup like this where you don't have to hold up a force to try to make sure your show and tell stick. Your show and tell is going to resolve. The colorless deck is not going to stop you from doing that. What they're going to do is play Chalices and Thorns and possibly waste you. The Wasteland's not mattering at all in the normal deck list, provided that you fetch carefully. So he's whiffed on lands, and he also hasn't found a Grizzlebrand. But with no real clock across the table, I'm not too worried for him yet. There we go. Okay, so this is going to resolve, and I guess you take the show and tell because he's really far on the sneak attack. So what was it that he got off of that preordain? He ripped another spell pierce and he kind of shook his head at it. So now he should be getting hit down to 15 from the mimic trigger. and next turn he'll go to. He'll just take another 6, right? Jinsong is really far ahead, but just needs to make this into a much quicker clock. I don't know if I agree with trying to jam that that thorn there, because it's quite possible that it just gets forced or pierced or something, and I would have rather destroyed his volcanic island. I think that it's unlikely that the show and tell player can continue to just piddle along here doing nothing, cantripping along trying to find lands if you take out 50% of them on this last turn. You know that he bricked multiple times in a row. I do not think that you can keep a ponder here if the cards are not perfect. So if you're thinking this hard about your ponder, then it probably isn't a winning line, and I would be hesitant to keep it. Keeping keeping another couple of cantrips here is not an option, I don't think. So my line here is shuffle and just draw the City of Traders, and then draw the Emrakul. Although I guess he still just needs a second copy of a red land. Okay. There's an Ancient Tomb. He decided to use the rest of his mana here on a ponder that he knew about. I guess a ponder is technically better than a random draw because you see a bunch more cards and you still get to shuffle afterwards. But his mana is so constricted now that if this isn't a land, and it was not, then he doesn't actually have an avenue of winning because the top of his deck is uncertain. Okay, and I'm just gonna cut it here, and we'll go back to Seongsu starting on the play. That's only 4 cards. What did I cut here? That's just super upsetting. I mean, the deck can win on that if nobody's messing with you. Ancient Tomb, Sphere, Pierce. Sorry, not Sphere, Thorn. Thorn is great in this matchup, and it's great to have the Spell Pierce for it. If the rest of his hand is perfect. I mean, it's not, but if it was. Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Brainstorm. He is becoming tilted. I mean, I'm always tilted when I mull to 4 also. I cut out that part of the video because I really feel bad about making the viewers watch so much shuffling. I mean, that's the funnest part of Magic to watch, I know, but we can't just shuffle. But I guess I didn't notice that a lot of what I cut was him mulling from 7 to 6 to 5. Because I was a little bit surprised to start commentating on this and to see that he had just gone down to 4. Here's a random draw from the ponder. He is not going to brainstorm now. Because he is smart. Now he's got an island for Brainstorm and a fetch to go with it. Though he does not have that many cards to work with, so finding enough cards to put back can be challenging. There's an Emrakul. I want to see him pick the perfect cards and just Emrakul this dude. Sorry, Junso. I didn't mean it. Two cards back, go. Oh, he kept. Interesting, he kept a fetch. If he's keeping a hand of just Emrakul here, I believe when he shuffles and rips Show and Tell, he'll be in good shape. He's also not facing very much pressure, really. Matter Reshaper hitting him, he can live through that for quite a while. Okay, so he's still bricking. He has a chance here. Unfortunately, if you get too low and then you have to cheat an Emrakul in and you don't get that extra turn, it can still just be too late. And now the Mimic. Oh, the Mimic's gonna hit really hard. So now he's gonna take 8. And if this delta, that delta is cracking just to fetch. I mean, sorry, the delta is cracking simply too thin, and I think that that's a mistake. I think that there are certain ways where if you draw Brainstorm off the top, and you needed a fetch more than you needed the minuscule amount of thinning that just happened. He's praying to RNGesus now. Oh man, and doing that awful slow roll. I wouldn't be surprised if this card just ends up being the worst card in the deck. It was red. Is that it? I mean, if it's sneak attack, then he has with the pedal a sneak attack and a land and a pedal. That's a hasty Emrakul. Never mind. That is an irrelevant. That is an irrelevant red card. Joon will pack it in, and I will say congratulations to Jinsung playing the Eldrazi deck today. He stopped at least 2 people that I saw. Well done here, and hope to see you again soon.